Hi everybody, Golden Era Bookworm here. Today I would like to review Your Physique 1950, the April issue, after having been asked by some fans to begin doing my reviews again, seeing that that's what made my channel so famous. And in particular, this particular issue has some great photos here at the cover of Steve Reeves. We've got Clarence Ross, George Eiferman and Alan Steffen. Now, I just want to mention that part of the reason why it stopped is because some of these magazines are really old and in tatters, and every time I review them and open them up, I do run the risk of destroying them further. But because some of you guys are really interested in seeing them, I will take the risk. Now, this particular issue had some excellent articles. The first one, which I find really fantastic, is the one written by David Willoughby, 3 Olympic Lifts. And what I find out so interesting about it is actually this photo here with George F. Jowett. This is actually from the 1920s. And here he is actually handling a 225 globe barbell. You don't see these anymore. And at the bottom we can actually see 2 kettlebells. And these particular globe barbells and kettlebells are actually from the original Milo Barbell Company. And you find these on eBay occasionally for hundreds of thousands of dollars. These things are so rare. They're absolute relics. And I've seen this photo online, but never in this quality, and it's really awesome to see. Anyway, this particular article was excellent in that it describes the different methods in Europe that were used to perform the Olympic lifts back then: the 2 hands press, the clean and jerk, and the snatch. And basically the one that was later adopted throughout the world was the French technique. The French technique over the German technique. The German was more like a continental school. Continental school meaning that it was basically brute strength versus elegant performance or strict form as practiced by the French. For example, in the German school of continental lifting, it's just basically how much weight you could possibly lift using cheating. Really, it's not cheating in the form of not performing a strict form of the exercise. So we're talking about back bending is allowed and just basically heaving the weight up as much as possible to get it up. And this was the German school, so to speak, was actually adopted by the Austrians, the Russians, and the Germans, whereas the French school at the time was adopted by the Swiss, Belgian, Luxembourgish, Italian, and Swedish lifters. Overall, the French came out to be used throughout history as the preferred method because it had good technique, and basically the German version died out. There's also a detailed account of the different types of odd lifts and strength feats performed prior to the Olympic lifts, and these were basically around 1850 when anything basically could be lifted. And about 1850s when the first real solid iron dumbbells and barbells started to come out, and they became very popular. So we're talking, almost 200 years ago. That's when the first real solid and iron dumbbells and barbells came out. Can you just fathom that the equipment that we use nowadays goes back almost 200 years. The iron game history truly is a rich history, and I love talking about it. This is why I like reading about this stuff, and I like presenting it to you. Now, it is considered that at this time, around 1850, is when truly the sport of weightlifting really took off, because suddenly you had something to measure with, something like a dumbbell, something like a barbell, and not some odd object like a stone. So for the first time, weightlifting actually started to become more standardized. Not that it was standardized properly back then, but the beginning of standard weightlifting actually came about. And as we see it, as I mentioned, nowadays, the weightlifting that we now perform nowadays is of French origin. Yeah, it's a very excellent article, very historical, and I may even have to do in the future a video on the history of the 3 Olympic lifts. It's a really excellent article. Now, if we continue in this magazine, we see an article on constipation. Wow, I'm not going to talk about that, but I am impressed by the nice double biceps pose there of Alan Pavio. And here we have Martin Gagliano with a very fine athletic physique, great abdominals, very classic. Now, this is a great article that I already covered, and here we have Abe Goldberg performing a series of exercises to increase the chest size and arm size. Here we have, for example, Abe Goldberg performing kettlebell flies, very wide grip barbell bench press, and heavy pullovers. Heavy pullovers I've actually done a couple of videos on already. An excellent silver era exercise. Moving on, we have Making Champions. As you can see, the pages are just coming off. Now, Making Champions had an excellent photo here of Floyd Page. I love this variation of the double biceps pose. It's very classic, slightly tilted, one leg in front over the other, one arm supinated, one arm pronated, and Floyd Page just looks phenomenal. He looks like he's carved out of stone. I mean, the legs are great, the arms, the veiny forearms, you got a beautiful chest, serratus muscles, everything's there, thick lats. Just he looks like freaking Greek god, for God's sake. It's phenomenal. Great photo there of Floyd Page. And moving on further, I won't cover this particular one, but we've got a nice article here written by George F. Jowett on the development of the first pulley machines. Wow, I mean, they actually used to call the pulley station, the cable station where we train in the gym. It's the middle of the gym, and everyone loves looking at themselves in the mirror doing, cable crossovers where they do their pecs. Yeah, I mean, that's what they do nowadays. But back then, this machine, in its absolute infancy in history, was actually called the Pulley Bell. The Pulley Bell. And apparently, here we have George F. Jowett, the author of this article, giving all these different exercises for triceps. This particular article alone is on developing the triceps and some really fantastic variations that I've never really seen before. A really excellent article, and it even states how to actually construct your own. Really excellent article. Really enjoyed reading that one. And of course, here we have a great photo of who I like to call the Zane of the Silver Era. The Silver Era was well known for bulky Herculean physiques, but we did have George Boulanger, Mr. Canada, who was very aesthetic, more of an Apollo type of physique, not huge, but beautifully and aesthetically developed. Look at that fantastic vacuum he's holding here. Really nice square pecs, great deltoids, and fantastic tricep development. Beautiful, beautiful development here. Very cut and defined as well for the Silver Era was George Boulanger. Another great article, again written by David Willoughby, he was a real prominent author back in the day, was on waistline development. And they actually talk about building the obliques. And some of the best exercises for that, of course, back then was the bent press. And you can clearly see the development of the obliques in some of these athletes given here. And you can see that it does widen the waist quite a bit. I mean, here it's actually bulging out. I don't actually like performing oblique exercises myself, but it is recommended, I guess, for people with too much of a tiny waist. Finally, we have some great photos here of Clarence Ross. This is just epic, this shot here. He looks like Hercules lifting, the Roman columns, for God's sake. Look at that. Damn. Clarence Ross, the strongman. I've already done a video based on this article, and it talks about how strong Clarence Ross was and the exercises he used to actually develop incredible strength. A final look at this magazine reveals one of the earliest photos I've ever seen of Vince Gironda in Your Physique, and also a great photo here of Armand Tanny. And I did cover this particular article in a video a month ago, and it was on the Zeller curl. I'll just bring that down slightly so you can see Artie Zeller, and there he is with his fantastic, most muscular, bulging softball biceps. I mean, there you go. For those people that say, oh, this was photoshopped, can you believe the idiots? I mean, the comments that I get from some of these idiots going, that photo is photoshopped. There you go. I mean, it's not Photoshop, for God's sake. That's just called genetics, for God's sake. This is 1949, 1950. Roids had not been even invented until the late 1950s by Seba, and we're talking about Dianabol. And if you're going to give me the testosterone story, just spare it, for God's sake. This is Artie Zeller talking about the Arthur Zeller curl, a great article that I already mentioned in a previous video. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed watching this video on Your Physique April 1950. Again, a great cover showing the legends of the silver era: Clarence Ross, Steve Reeves, Alan Stephan, and George Eiferman. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't to the Golden Era Bookworm. Leave me your comments, and thank you for watching. If you'd like to support my work, please donate via PayPal or become a patron, or you can visit my website to purchase courses and books on the Golden, Silver, and Bronze Era bodybuilding. Anyway, that's it for me. I'll be bringing more reviews like this of magazines from the past, so you can count on that. Anyway, that's it for me. This is the Golden Era Bookworm. Bye for now.